I just got to Nicaragua. Let's go explore.
I landed in Managua, which is the capital of Nicaragua, and I was here for about a day and a half. The city is not touristy, and that's why I only spent a day and a half, but I did want to go to a museum and just kind of walk around and see what the city is like. I really like history and culture, and I wanted to get some of that in before I went to like the beachy side of Nicaragua, so that's what I did in the city. And when I was walking around, there were Christmas decorations literally everywhere. I didn't realize that Nicaragua went so hard for Christmas. I loved it. And then the following day, I sat around the hostel. There was a pool there, so I sat and tanned and did some Christmas knitting because I have a lot of Christmas gifts I need to make. I also went on a little hot girl walk around the city, picked up some snacks for the long bus ride that I had ahead of me, and then packed up and got ready. I was taking the bus from the capital down to a surf town called San Juan del Sur, but honestly, that was a crazy experience that needs its own video. So stay tuned for that. Taking the chicken buses in Nicaragua was an experience that I was not prepared for. And this is no shade to Nicaragua, okay? A lot of this was a me problem. I had never taken buses like that before, so it was a little bit of a culture shock to me, and also my Spanish just isn't good enough to have done that. Okay, so let me set the scene for you. I hop out of my Uber at the bus terminal, and everybody is just yelling locations and times. It was very overwhelming. I told someone where I was going, and they just kind of put me on a bus. For the first hour of the bus ride, I was worried that I misunderstood what they told me and that I could have been on the wrong bus. I also realized that they scammed me because I paid before getting on the bus, and then when I got on the bus, they asked me to pay again. But it was fine. I'm a tourist. I get it. Whatever. I double-checked that I was in fact on the right bus, and then I settled in. But what I didn't realize was that the bus wasn't going all the way to the city center of where I was going, and I kind of got dropped off like 30 minutes outside and got stranded on the side of the road. And I did what I was told never to do, which was get into a random man's car, but I paid him to take me to the city center, and you know what? We got there fine, so it's alright. But yeah, definitely learned some lessons during this whole experience. I decided to change my travel plans super last minute to accommodate my autism because I was really stressed out. I originally had an action-packed week for Nicaragua, but a couple days before leaving for my trip, I just knew I would not be able to handle it. These past couple months, I've been working a lot and have not had a lot of time to rest, and I knew that I could not jump into a bunch of travel in the state that I was in. So I very responsibly, but very sadly, canceled all of my activities and decided to park myself at the beach for that week instead. Quick round of applause for me actually listening to my body and doing what I needed, because usually I don't do that. And even though I missed out on all the cool things that I originally planned, I did have a lot of fun. I was hanging out at a cute little surf town called San Juan del Sur, and I basically just parked myself at the beach and stayed there all day, every day. And I did some knitting, and I watched a lot of TV. I spoiled myself and ate a lot of good food, and I got myself mentally prepared for all of the travel that I was about to be doing. Because I'm actually going to be traveling for the next month and a half. Nicaragua is just my first stop. I'm doing a lot of work stuff. I'm hosting some group trips, stuff like that. So I actually need to be like present and on during this traveling. And I knew in the state that I was in that I definitely could not do that. So I needed to take this rest. Spend a travel day with me crossing the border from Nicaragua to Costa Rica. I had heard from other travelers that this can be a little bit of a difficult experience because bus drivers tend to be scammy towards tourists. And I had already experienced a lot of scammy buses in Nicaragua, so I wasn't taking any chances. I decided to book a bus company that takes you from Nicaragua across the border and then to your final destination in Costa Rica, and for me, that was San Jose. My ticket for the whole thing cost $14 US, and I think that was a pretty good deal. So we got on the bus near the border on the Nicaragua side, drove to the border, got out of the bus for customs, paid our $3 to leave Nicaragua, then got back on the bus, drove to customs again to enter Costa Rica. We didn't have to pay anything to enter Costa Rica. Then we got back on the bus, and that's when we started our trip all the way to San Jose. Getting on and off the bus and going through customs took about an hour, and then our drive from the border to San Jose, Costa Rica was about 5.5 hours with traffic. Overall, I would call it a pretty easy and low-stress travel day. I was reminded of my immense privilege as I crossed the Nicaragua-Costa Rica border with my American passport. For me, it was just another carefree travel day, but it was only carefree because of the passport I hold. I was treated with kindness despite my country doing horrific things literally all over the world, but specifically to people from Central America. And I would like to use my privilege to say fuck ICE and the US empire. If you can only achieve greatness through oppressing others, then newsflash, you aren't great. And to all the white people that feed into the white supremacist bullshit, you aren't special. There's nothing about you that is better or special than anybody in the global south. The only difference between the two of you is where you were born. And excuse the rant, but travel is political, and while I'm traveling, it's only right for me to shed light on the political issues. The US loves to fearmonger and talk about how dangerous the countries in the global south are. And not only is it just a tactic to manifest consent to do bad things to these countries, but the US also fails to mention that they are often the cause of unstable countries. We love to invade countries with the lie of us bringing democracy to them or saving their people, when in reality we are just stealing resources and power. And if you really hate immigrants in your country that much, then you should be opposed to the US industrial complex, the US military, and all the other things that we are doing to cause people to flee their country and become immigrants. Something that I don't usually show on social media is my rest days while I'm traveling. I take a lot of rest and regroup days to accommodate my autism, but I typically don't show it because they're boring, but come along and I'll share with you my rest day. I booked a private room in a hostel so that I could hide away from the world and not have to talk to anyone. This allows me to really recharge my energy. I spent my morning working in a coffee shop. I had a lot of emails to catch up on, and I treated myself to a nice breakfast. I also stopped off at a convenience store and picked up a lot of water and snacks for the next couple days, and then I came back to the hostel and did my laundry. Those were the only chores that I had to do for the day, so then I was able to come back to my room and just rot. The hostel that I'm staying at also has a pool, so I went outside and hung out by there for a little while. But I'm telling you, my day was boring. I was just trying to recharge. I ate a lot of snacks, I watched a lot of TV, and I did some knitting. That's pretty much it. But even though these days are really boring, they are super important. The constant change of traveling can be really stressful for my autism. I need at least one day a week to just lay in bed and recharge. I'm currently in Costa Rica. I have a group trip starting tomorrow, but most people are already here in the city, and Wicked for Good just came out, so I bought everybody that's here tickets, and we're all gonna go see it tonight. A couple of us met up and all got dinner together, and it was so nice to hang out, share a meal, and get to know each other. And then we all Ubered to the cinema, and we were having so much fun, like talking, hanging out, getting to know one another, that we actually ended up missing the first couple minutes of the movie. But it's fine, we got there, we made it, we watched the movie. I got teary at the end, and I feel like this is just going to be a core memory, getting to see Wicked for Good in Costa Rica with a bunch of other autistic people. Like, what?
Oh my gosh, this is definitely the smallest plane I've ever been on.
This is the flight that I had to take to Drake Bay, Costa Rica, which is where I was hosting my 4th neurodivergent group trip. Half of us were on this flight, and we were all kind of freaking out because the plane was tiny. But it was a quick 40-minute flight, and we landed in Drake, and our lovely host came to pick us up from the airport, and we were off to start our group trip. It was a very chill first day because everybody was arriving at different times, and obviously with layovers and us all being autistic, we needed time to adjust. So we hung out, we played cards, we had time to get to know each other without those god-awful icebreaker games. You know, we just hung out and vibed together. It was really awesome. And once everyone was here and all settled in, we went to the beach for sunset, and it was so beautiful. And then we ended the night with some dinner and basically a show and tell of all the fidget toys that people brought. I mean, we were having a great time playing with everybody's fidget toys, and someone in the group actually made us little fidget toys, and they are so cute. They have little turtles on them. Welcome to Finca Ganadito, my home for the next week with my neurodivergent group trip. We are doing turtle conservation here in Drake Bay, Costa Rica. We arrived at the very end of nesting season, where the olive ridley turtles come to the beach to lay their eggs. Because of a lot of different man-made issues such as poaching, the eggs that the turtles lay aren't safe at the beach. And that's where turtle conservation comes in. We patrol the beach at night looking for turtles who have come to shore to lay their eggs and carefully move them to the hatcheries. There's like so much more that goes into this, but this is a very quick explanation. We also arrived at the beginning of hatching season, where the baby turtles that are in the hatcheries hatch and need to be released so that they can start their long journey to the ocean. But we aren't doing turtle stuff the entire time. I just wanted to nerd out about that really quick. When we aren't doing turtle stuff, there are tons of time to bond as a neurodivergent group and go off and do cool adventures like horseback riding, snorkeling, and all the other things that Costa Rica has to offer. So come follow along and see what a neurodivergent group trip is like, and see how our week in Costa Rica goes.
Let's go patrol the beach for turtles.
It's the end of nesting season, so I don't think we're gonna see anything, but we'll find out. Hi, this is voiceover Morgan talking. Today ended up being a crazy night. We started off patrol by finding tracks on the beach that looked like they came from green turtles, which usually do not come to this beach. So we were super shocked, super surprised, and started taking a bunch of data about the tracks. And there were no tracks going back into the ocean, which meant the turtle was still there, and we found her. We watched her finish up her little like nesting ritual. They spin around and they do a bunch of stuff to like cover where their eggs were laid. And then we sat and we watched her slowly walk back into the ocean, and it was seriously like one of the coolest things I had ever seen. There's babies! Then we get a call from the people at the hatchery saying that a nest there was actively hatching, so of course we ran down the beach to go see. And then we took them out of their nest and counted them one by one for like science purposes and put them into this big bucket so that we could transport them to the beach so that we could let them go and let them start their big journey into the ocean. And this is also why the video quality and like the lighting has been super bad in this video, because when baby turtles hatch and are trying to go towards the ocean, it's very important not to have bright lights so that they don't go in the wrong direction. Like they're following like the crashing of the waves, like that little white strip. So it's really important not to have any other lights so the babies don't get confused. And anyway, there they go, they're off. And then we sat and waited for a while, making sure that they all got into the ocean. And that's a wrap for our crazy night.